So if I work from 6 a.m. to 12, that's already 6 hours before, quote unquote, a traditional lunch break. And that's 6 hours of uninterrupted time that I was able to put towards something like building a business.
I got a question for you about the 4 a.m. stuff. Do you think that you would have been able to start your own business and kind of plunge into some of the stuff that you're doing now if you didn't start that 4 a.m. Mentality? Because it seemed like there's been some pretty good influences on you. I know you read a lot, and I think it was Corey Gregory kind of has that 4 a.m. Mentality as well. Do you think that had a massive impact on you being able to kind of branch out? Even like you're still young, you know, and a lot of people just they say I'm young, and then they're 35.
Yeah, yeah,
and you're not so young anymore. So how were you able to do that? Do you think that 4 a.m. thing played into it big?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are two things that attributed to that. The first one was just seeing all the people that would get up at 4 a.m. Like if you surround yourself, or whether you're surrounding yourself literally, like I'm surrounded by you guys are in the area, or you're surrounding yourself with just the people you look to or read from or study under. If you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of people that get up at 4 a.m., I don't know there's a lot of successful people that don't get up at 4 a.m., but I don't know a lot of unsuccessful people that also get up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So it is like a correlation. Corey Gregory has built multiple successful businesses. Jocko Willink has built multiple successful businesses. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Wes Watson. That guy's pretty incredible. He came out of prison, built a very successful business, and he wakes up super early.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's fun to listen
Mosey's
to.
mentioned it too.
Yeah. So those people, I mean, not that for them getting up at 4 a.m. is the key to their success, but it is a habit that they've instilled that contribute to the other habits that they have with being successful. So I think being a young man and being in high school, recognizing that, looking up to guys like Corey Gregory, looking up to guys like you three, looking up to guys like Jocko Willink, and seeing like, oh, well, if Jocko gets up at 4 a.m., that's good enough for me. If Corey gets up at 4 a.m., that's good enough for me. So I think that was the inspiration. But once I realized that this gives me an edge against my former self, it gives me an edge against anybody I compete with, it gives me an edge against any other adversary that I would want to put in front of myself to get me fired up. Getting up earlier does give me an edge. And for me, I found that if I can have the most amount of uninterrupted time to focus on things like building a business or establishing relationships with other people or training or anything else that I'm passionate about, that uninterrupted time for me happens to be super early in the morning. I don't really do well staying up late at night. It's like, I mean, yesterday was 4th of July and I didn't even try to stay up to watch fireworks. I just fall asleep right away and I can't focus that much, but I can focus really well in the morning. So if I get up and I'm at the gym at 4 and then my work day starts at 6 a.m., most people are still doing their morning routine or getting up at 6 a.m. So if I work from 6 a.m. to 12, that's already 6 hours before, quote unquote, a traditional lunch break. And that's 6 hours of uninterrupted time that I was able to put towards something like building a business or getting better at jiu-jitsu, learning more about strength and conditioning. So I think it's like a two-part answer. You know, the inspiration comes from seeing the example of people getting up that early and looking at all the stuff they've done. And then the action of getting up early and having that uninterrupted time, I think, is the biggest contributor to being able to do those things.
So you've been doing this for a while now, and you're still just 25 years old. I remember me at 25, I would have never been able to do that. But did you ever feel that you've been like, you missed out on anything because you're like, you said you're going to bed around 7 to 8? Because I'm just thinking a lot of 20-year-olds are going to be like, well, no, because I can't because of X, Y, and Z. Like, whether it's something as simple as like Netflix or like I got to go see my girl, like whatever it may be. But have you ever felt like, man, I'm making a sacrifice to get up early?
For some things, yes, but I'd say like 99% of it, no. When I was younger and I was wrestling, I was super competitive, and I put all my identity in winning and losing with wrestling. So I didn't put my identity in the quality relationships that I had. So if I had to sacrifice an activity with friends to develop a quality relationship, but it meant that I have an opportunity to get a little stronger, get a little faster so I can win more at wrestling, that was a really easy trade for me to make. And it's like, screw you guys. You guys can go have pizza. Like, I'm going to bed and I'm getting up early and doing all that stuff. And so, and I definitely think that was a mistake early on, and my mindset with that has changed. But I think just from the time that I was younger, I didn't care that much about what a lot of other people my age maybe cared about. I never partied in high school. It didn't really like seem fun. Like I don't like being around a ton of people like that, and I'd rather just like hang out with 3 people. And
I get too nervous around sketchy shit.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
people getting into fights and people getting hammered and people like being high and shit. I'm like, I don't, because at that age, when I was young, I didn't know what it was about. So it kind of like made, and my brother did a lot of drugs and shit like that. So I was always like, I don't want any part of this. So I just didn't go to a lot of stuff like that.
That is an amazing way to put it, because it was kind of scary. And like I'd hear stories or I'd see stuff from like other family members that have had issues with the law, and just think like, I don't know the connection between, you know, having fun in this manner and then going to prison. But I don't even want to flirt with that connection. I'd rather just stay out of it all the way.
Anytime I ever saw a cop, I always thought I was going to get arrested for something. I'm like, I'm going to get arrested for something. I'm doing something wrong. I shouldn't be chewing gum.
Nothing to worry
My
about.
fucking hat's, my hat's backwards. Like, I think I just cussed or something.
Right. The first time I got my license and drove to school, I was wearing my hat the way Andrew was wearing it. And my mom said, you should probably turn that hat around in case there's a cop behind you. And I was like, Mom, no, there's...
Hey guys, I want to tell you about Merrick Health, the premium telehealth clinic owned by Derek for More Plates, More Dates. Now, when some people think about Merrick Health, they think it's just another one of those testosterone companies or another one of those blood work companies. But Merrick Health is really cool because, you can get your blood work done, you can get hormone optimization, but you can also get nootropics. You can also get Viagra. You can get literally whatever you need from that clinic. And they make it very, very easy for you. That's why we love Merrick. So, Andrew, how can people learn about it?
Yes, Merrick Health is not just a one-trick pony, but if you did want to get your labs done, we highly recommend the Power Project panel. That's 28 different labs. That's also going to come with a client care coordinator that's going to give you a lab analysis, and they're going to work with you and help you optimize your body. Again, that's at merrickhealth.com/powerproject. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save $101 off that entire panel. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
That's not true.
Hey, this is just a hack for anybody in your 20s and you're driving too fast, you get pulled over by a cop. Just say you're driving to a criminal justice final. It worked for me like 5 different times in college. Yeah. Every single time I was pulled over, I was in my beat up fucking Corolla, big ass black dude. Sorry, officer, I'm late for my criminal justice final. I'm so sorry.
What if he asked a follow-up question?
There was no follow-up questions. He was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm good.
What
I'm
school
sorry."
you at?
University
of the United States.
Hey, but criminal justice final will get you. It might, but for me, it worked every time. So.
I love it.
I haven't heard that, but with people in the jiu-jitsu community, I've heard so many stories of them getting pulled over and be like, "What? You train at Casio's? Man, I keep seeing that place. I should probably try to slide through."
There we
and
go.
then they start, like spitting some game a little bit, like, "Man, you should come through. Like, it's tough training." Like, "Okay, well, just slow down a little bit, man. But I'll catch you at open mat."
Yo, we're giving you all the tricks to get out of fucking getting a ticket. This is good shit.
That's
yes,
funny.
Sir.
Yeah, there was a block party, like 4th of July block party, and I'm like, I have zero interest in going over there. Like, there's a lot of people over there. Like, and there's some people drinking. Like, that's whatever. They're having a good time, but like, I've never wanted to like be in the middle of all of that. And then what you were pointing out, like somebody got arrested for I don't know. Like, what if once a year, whenever we work out, somebody gets arrested? We'd be like, fuck, I don't know if this is really a good idea.
Yeah.
And like, you're willing to like possibly get into some shit because you want to go party. Like, I don't know, man. That just, I don't think it's worth it.
Have you seen that movie Shot Caller? That's a
Sounds
perfect
familiar.
example. This dude, like total straight edge, works in the financial district of LA, gets one tiny DUI and just gets a bad jury, and they put him in general pop in jail. And then the AB gets a hold of him, and he has to like shank people and do all this stuff. And then anyway, the movie is him. He ends up becoming Shot Caller, gets the keys to the yard, and it's a dope movie. But it all started because he like had a little bit too much to drink, didn't pass a DUI stop. So it's like, I ain't trying to mess with any of that.
I just want to give a general like observation of like this kind of 4 a.m. mentality, so people that are listening can, I guess, kind of pick whatever way they want to go about doing things. I have met a lot of successful people that don't wake up at 4. I've met a lot of successful people that they're not even sometimes up by 7 or 8. the thing about waking up at like 4, or the thing about being somewhere at 4 or 5 a.m. is normally, under normal circumstances, people do have a pretty particular purpose for waking up at that hour. And so that means that they're pretty driven because they're setting up the rest of their life. They have the discipline. I call it a cascade of disciplines. You have a cascade of disciplines that descends downward into you figuring out, how the fuck am I going to be somewhere at 4 or 5 a.m. tomorrow morning? And so then, therefore, you have to get to bed earlier. You have to arrange your whole day every day to coordinate yourself, to be organized enough to make it somewhere that early in the morning. However, you mentioned that you don't really like to work at night. I've been the same way for many years. I think that the opportunity to do like more bullshit type stuff at night is usually what happens to a lot of people. I'm not saying it happens to everybody. There's some people that might just be editing a YouTube clip, in the middle of the night. But a lot of time that's where the devils kind of roll in, right? That's where pornography, texting chicks, or like whatever the stuff is that you're doing in the middle of the night. That's where a lot of that stuff seems to happen for a lot of people, and even just doing drugs or getting high and eating stuff that's not in your diet. Like that's where. So a lot of people I communicate with, I'll ask them about their diet, their nutrition. It's almost always past 7 p.m. where they have the mistakes. And something like making a switch, obviously waking up at 3 or 4 to get somewhere that early might be way too huge of a switch. But what if they just started to organize themselves to where they got to bed at like 8 p.m. every night? They weren't up watching TV and having all those cravings. Like all those thoughts can be eliminated by simply just making a decision to perhaps get up earlier.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed just with like waking up early is it's almost always beneficial for people just to wake up earlier. So again, I just want to kind of reference that because people are like, man, I'm not fucking waking up at 4. I know there's people that are probably like, I'm not getting up that early.
What's interesting is that, I mean, I hear this so often. Like I'll even tell people, whether it's at jiu-jitsu or at a coffee shop, or even if I don't have a relationship with them built on lifting or jiu-jitsu, and they'll ask like, you really like trained at 4 today? And I was like, yep, like we did today, and we're going to be there again on Wednesday. And sometimes like they'll come back with like, man, I would be there. Like I would totally slide through, but I got shit to do. Like at 4? Like, what are you doing? And I think when people, they look at their day, or they have reasons / excuses on why they can't focus towards building their own business, why they can't study more for school if they're a college student, why they can't get 3 10-minute walks in. Like I don't want to say simple, but reasonable things to add into their day or their daily habits. And they just look at their whole day as like, oh, my hands are tied now. All my time is taken up. And if they just woke up 45 minutes earlier, an hour earlier, they could do their personal development. They could at least get 1 walk done. They could get their training done. They can get all these other things done that they can contribute towards the goals that they have. And like you said, it is a cascade of disciplines. If they continue to do that and they stack that up over the course of a year, they'll be a completely different and transformed person.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this too, because Andrew was mentioning something like, it getting in the way of friendships, relationships. And you said earlier on, maybe it did. But one thing is you've kind of built a community around being up at 4. And I'm curious, like, would you say that the guys that you get up and train with at 4 a.m. are also some of your close friends? I mean, they're clients or people that you train with, but are they also some of your friends because you guys now have this, group that does the same shit?
At 100%. The different people have kind of come in and out of the group just based off of work schedules and kids and things like that. But when I got married, one of the guys from the group was in my wedding, and several other people in the group were at my wedding. And anytime I hang out with friends, it's always with them. I don't really hang out with anybody else, I mean, outside of family. And I do think that it's the interesting thing that I've seen is like one guy that's in the group, Zach, I've known him since middle school, and we wrestled together and we'd work out together, we'd train together. And I had other friends in high school, but he's the only one that I still talk to, and he's also the only one that trains at 4. And it's not that if any of the other people that I used to hang out with didn't train at 4, then it's like, sorry, like I'm cutting you out. But there's just not a whole lot of extra time to build relationships like that don't necessarily contribute to what I'm looking to do. In the relationship I have with Zach, his goals are aligned in intensity. He's a real estate agent, so his goals are very different than mine as far as what we want to do with our own lives, but the intensity that he has for it is very similar. And he trains at 4 a.m. So that's something that we can bond on. That's something that we can hold each other accountable to. That's something that we can continue to pursue together, as opposed to someone that only got up at 6:30 and like, we should work out, man. It's like, great, I'll be there at 4. Like, well, no, I was thinking in the afternoon. Sorry. It's just not going to work. And that's the way it's got to be.
Have you always been a leader? Have you always been drawn to that?
I haven't always been drawn to it, but since a young age, people have told me that. Like, even if I didn't believe it, there'd be people at church that say, like, hey, like, you're a leader. And my parents definitely instilled that into my brother and I, saying, like, you guys are leaders, you're not followers. And then we'd say, well, unless you're a follower of Jesus. They're like, yes, just be a leader, shut up.
I love it.
It's at Jesus _
Guys, we're working hard over here trying to learn, trying to bring our information to you, and we need your help. A lot of you guys watching these bites aren't subscribed, so just click that red subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can see when we continue to come out with this heat. Talk to y'all later.